Something is wrong with Ryan Martin, they said. He couldn't be stopped, but what if we told you that behind all his winning was a road full of sadness? Ryan Martin's story isn't just about going fast, it's about staying alive. So how did the Golden Boy of Street Outlaws racer everyone thought couldn't lose face, this terrible disturber? The world knew him as the fire-throwing star on Street Outlaws. Ryan Martin was just a young guy from Oklahoma who couldn't sit still unless was driving a car, and that love came the need to dare the wind and dress. One of his first cars was a simple '89 Mustang GT, just loud enough to wake up everyone nearby and fast enough to give him the thrill of going really fast. If Ryan wasn't racing for fame back then, he was doing it for the feeling of excitement and his love for it. Each time Ryan raced on the street, he made his name known, and his name didn't just echo in local garages, was heard across state lines. However, Ryan wasn't just a racer. He loved tow work on cars and opened up a garage where he fixed up cars. Later, he worked with a friend and they opened B&R Performance. Then Street Outlaws came knocking. Ryan wasn't going to race at first, as he was the co-owner of B&R Performance and spent his time helping drivers such as Freakin' Rican, Jackie Knox, and others during their climbs up the ranks. Then Ryan couldn't resist the thrill of speed, and he decided he was ready to take tough streets himself in his super-fast Fireball Camaro. This car is a monster machine that didn't just burn rubber, it burned expectations. With the Camaro, Ryan made it look easy. He got win after win, but none got to his head. Ryan was always careful, and let his win speak louder than any trash talk ever could. For him, it wasn't just racing, Gate was staying alive at high speed, and Justin at the top. Something happened at end. Ryan was left behind to pick up the pieces. Some moments you don't see coming, others you feel before they happen, like your change in the air, a heavy feeling in your stomach. Ryan felt something would happen, but ignored it. Ryan, calm as ever, rolled the Fireball out at Perth Motorplex in March 2021, getting ready for the Street Outlaws Australia tour. The crowd was excited, cameras were rolling, and under the hood of that black and red monster 500 horses waited to be let loose. It was the third test run of the day, nothing unusual, and then it happened. Ryan crossed the finish line clean, but something was wrong. The car didn't slow down like it should, whether it was a slippery spot, brake problem, or just one of those word moments that happen in race. Fireball snapped loose and crashed into the wall hard, the kind of hit though echoes in your chest long after the smoke clears. The front end got crush-shed fiberglass, got shredded carbon fiber, cracked like eggshells. The Fireball, a car that had become a symbol of Ryan's skill, power, and legacy, was left hurt and broken. Luckily, he stepped out on his own. He didn't need an ambulance or a stretcher. However, walking away from the crash didn't mean that he wasn't hurt. He was hurt in places people wouldn't see. The crash of the Fireball Camaro was thickened of moment that stopped time. It was supposed to be just another test run for long hours. Ryan stared at the wreck insolence, and he felt a huge weight this time. It wasn't about amazing thefts, but about letting down fans who had traveled halfway across the world to watch him burn up the track. People or close to him noticed that Ryan had never doubted himself, felt sensation. He wasn't the untouchable man he had thought, and there was a crack in his mind. Unfortunately, this was on Leith. Beginning for a racer, crashing is part of the job, but when the car is your identity, your weapon, your partner, your legacy, watching it break feels like losing a part of yourself. And yet Ryan never pointed fingers, he didn't rant or run away, he just stood beside the wreck's sharp jaw, tight, already planning rebuild, because that's who he is. So what was next for Ryan Martin? So how did Ryan Martin the calm on the list, the back-to-back champion of no prep Kingston? The situation around how did he rise from staring down the ruins of everything he built? How did he deal with sadness? Did Ryan let it take over him, or did he fight it? Some crash upon with a bang, others with a silence he thought follows you long after the flamesty out after the crash in Perth. Riondadont? Run away instead of getting on a plane home. He and his crew, filled with determination and grit, stayed in Australia. They were thousands of miles from their home base without ready parts or familiar faces. Most would have called it quits, but Ryan, not a chance by night. They crawled over that broken Camaronder, harsh garage lights, small tools, and drenches in hand. They checked every local car builder in Sydney and Melbourne, chased down carbon fiber piece like treasure, and saved what they could as. Drags noted they were weeks away from access to the parts they need, but needing a running car in a matter of days. Ryan wondered what to do. Next, it was the worst time to crash his car. Buff wasn't discouraged, and this was a problem that he needed to solve. Every bolt, every weld, it felt personal, identity, legacy, all at stake. Rebuilding Fireball Camaro was more than fixing a race car. It was saving a piece of himself from ruin. He and his team looked through back alley workshops, traded with local car guys, and Madado with whatever they could find. There were no quick fixes, no overnight miracles, just hands dirty with grease nights spent under flickering shop lights and a Camaro that looked more ghost than Fireball. But here's what most people missed. Ryan wasn't just rebuilding, he was fighting himself and the world. Every bolt he tightened felt like a message to the world. It was his way of telling the world that it could take his car, but nothing could ever get this spirit. But still, behind the grit, something had changed. A silence had crept into the picture, not just from Thorek's car, but from Ryan himself. His usually calm behavior now carried an undertone. A man who'd stood too close to the edge and come back a little more haunted, because even as Fireball slowly came back to life, reshaped, rebuilt, the world around him was shaking in ways no orange could fix. But what do you do when fire isn't under the hood? It's in your head. Just as flames burned the Fireball during Ryan's crash, there was a fire Ryan felt burning inside long before the wreck. By mid-2022, Ryan Martin wasn't just getting better from wrecks and rebuilding. Fireball from ash and carbone was facing a truth, far more a personal one, that couldn't be welded back into place or tuned for better performance. In June of 2022, Ryan did dumb thing rare. He opened up a boot, something few saw coming. He'd been told he had bipolar II disorder, a mood condition that spins between crushing lows and wired highs. It wasn't a press release or a pity show. It was raw, brave, and honest. He was on a mood disorder medication plan. But one thing was certain: this was going to be his greatest repair yet. Unfortunately, the journey was tiring, emotional, never-ending. And for Ryan, who kept towing himself, it was lonely. This was the kind-of challenge that doesn't announce itself with screeching tires, but it makes even the strongest question their next step. And for Ryan, a man who had made a career out of timing control and dreading the track, losing control of his own thoughts felt like the cruelest twist of fate. He didn't talk about it much because it was not Ryan's style. However, in a few honest moments, tucked between race updates and shop work, he admitted memory loss, the numbing side effects, has fist the feeling of not knowing himself. Some meds made him slow, made him forgetful, and some made feel nothing at all. However, has stayed on his passion to race because he understood that unlike a broken axle or a blown motor, this wasn't something heckled just swap out in the shop. This way's about learning to live with it, to own it, not hide from it at night, long after the track lights shut off. Ryan faced a different kind of silence, the kind that doesn't hum with horsepower or adrenaline, the kind where your mind loops back on itself. Question indifferent from who you are to whether the next sunrise is something you're even ready for. But he kept going through every mood swing, every sleepless night, every unexpected low. He kept rebuilding. Wasn't just rebuilding the Fireball, but himself. He realized that his real strength didn't come from how fast he went, but in his ability to rebuild. And better, despite the setbacks, Ryan held him quietly and strongly for himself and for every fan who needed to know they even the fastest men sometimes need Taslow down to heal. You'd think the fire would be over by now, that after everything, after rebuilding his car in a foreign country, after finding the words to name his darkest thoughts, Ryan Martin might finally catch a breath. But 2022 had one more cruel card to play, and it didn't wait for permission. It happened at a No Prep Kings event in September. The day had started like any other, fans packed the stands, engines rumbled like distant thunder, and the Fireball Camaro waited patiently at the line, its growl barely held back under the hood. But no one, not Ryan, not his crew, not the crowd, could have predicted what was coming. Mike Murillo, a friend and a fellow racer, was chasing Ryan down the track in his Mustang. The race was clean, and you could taste the excitement, but something went wrong during the race. Mike's car caught fire. One moment, he was pushing his engine auto its limit, and the other possibility that he was going to burn was real. Ryan watched it all happen from his driver's seat, wondering if his friend would get lost in the storm off lanes. For one long, endless moment, Theris didn't matter. He just wanted his friend to be fine. The wind didn't matter. Ryan himself felt fear. He remembered Dita's own crash and wondered if it could have been him struggling with fire. Sat frozen breath, shallow under the fireproof suit, 1,000 thoughts crashing against the inside of his skull. This wasn't just another wreck. This was something else, something scary. A reminder that no matter how sharp your flexes, how tight your bolts, or how loud your fans cheer, accidents don't ask for permission. It just shows up. Mike lived by some miracle. He clawed his way out, covered in smoke and dirt, cowing, shaken, but alive. Later, he'd speak of his near-death experience. Abase. It was Ryan didn't speak much afterward. He didn't give interviews or post anything online. He didn't even say anything to his crew, but those who knew him could tell something had changed. Night, when the crowd had gone home, then the track lights dimmed, Ryan stayed alone long after the last tire had cooled and the cameras shut off. Hestel couldn't shake the event, Bhutan, fortunately. This was just the beginning, and what happened next completely broke him. But before then came another race. Everything looked normal in this race, to the weather was great, and the strip was buzzing with excitement. Ryan was calm as usual. But inside him, he fought a war, and the conflict in him exploded when just seconds after launch, one of the cars further down the event went up in flames. Crowd gasped. Track workers ran, and Ryan stood still, watching, heart pounding under the fireproof suit house. It could have been him. It had almost been him more than once, and there was still the chance it would be him. Next, just when it seemed things might settle, another crash came. This one a much too close. Ryan Fellows, a bellow vedface on Street Outlaws, fastest in America, lost his life in a fiery crash near Las Vegas on August 7, 2022. His gold Nissan 240Z flipped, burst into flames, and he burned alive before any Untold reach him. It sent a shockwave through the community, not just because he was a coworker, but because he was family. The show stopped, crews walked off set, and fans sat stunned, seeing a loss that felt very personal. He and Ryan Fellows shared marathon, a name they shared, the same blood-hot world, rough edges, roaring crowds, nights lit by headlights, and pride. They came from the same street trenches, pushing their machines toward impossible speeds, and now one of them was gone. His life ended under some swirl of smoke. This was something that Ryan went through but lived to race. Anathor Day fans online were scared. Different social media buzzed, questioned. She didn't know who died. They heard Ryan and thought it was Ryan Martin. Thepanic doubled on the internet, and it left a dark impression on Ryan, where people expecting him to die any time. This made his medical condition worse, and Ryan saw a different kind of reality. Was also mad, consumed by the emotional cost of the event itself, and bung mistaken to have died. He watched as his friends grieved. He saw Ryan Fellows' wife Liz and teenage son Joe sighed, divested, and said he lost control when the desert flipped and caught fire. Heard the Street Outlaws statement, family is heartbroken, deepest sympathy. Still, he stayed on the track, held his ground, and raced again because in that silence when his teammates buried a brother. Ryan Martin understood that survival isn't celebration, it's a burden. A name confused with Anna Thurderson. Just fade, it becomes. A ghost that haunts every turn, every beam of the Camaro's headlights. Every red glow off finish line casts shadows of tragedy down the lane, and while he drove again, something changed. Some part of that quiet killer was reshaped, smoothed, by zero, scarred. By memory made fragile by guilt. Now every race wasn't just a test off speed, it was a tribute to the fallen Aslan question. How many more names will whisper in the smoke? Ryan didn't let fear stop him, and in 2023 he and his team delivered a defiant reminder at the Texas Motorplex. In a fierce, unpredictable achieve, he led his crew to win the No Prep Kings Team Championship. It wasn't just another win, it was a comeback, a roar from the Shadowsten in early 2025, when the air was thick with rumors about the show's future. Ryan stepped onto a smaller stage, but with no less intensity, a cold March night, a regional meet, a crowd of die-hard fans and doubters, and there he was, again taking on Kai Kelly in a small tire duel that reminded everyone the fire hadn't gone out. He didn't just race, had dominated. That wind wasn't on TV. There were no slow-motion replays or interviews cut between segments. Just road excitement, and a man refusing Tobe, forgotten. And maybe that's the point backhouse for Ryan Martin. This was never about fame or fanfare. It was an oasis been about speed and hearing the engine roar. So while Street Outlaws is quiet for now, because Discovery is pausing things, Ryan isn't sitting on his shins and waiting for the show to get back on air. There is no actual date for when the show will return to regular reprogramming. But that doesn't mean Thestry is over. Not for Ryan, not for Thestry. Instead, a new chapter is being written, not under studio lights, but under open skies, in localist tracks and live streams. Maybe this is exactly where Ryan belongs now, because what matters most isn't how loud the world is around you. It is whether your heart still beats for what you love, and for Ryan Martin, he lives for racing, and he is still racing. Writing his story 1 mile at a time, my cameras might have focused elsewhere, and the roar of the crowd distant, but a racer never loses heart. It doesn't just fade, it grows, evolves, and remains hungry for Ryan Martin. The journey didn't end when the credits rolled on Street Outlaws. If anything, that was just a chapter. Ryan wasn't doing it for the cameras. He raced because he loved it, and will always continue to do so. He has achieved a lot as a street racer and has found how scary and powerful he is behind the wheels. What next would come from him?